Hello, and welcome to Toon Travel, the show where we travel through time and watch classic cartoons. I'm Paul Siebert.
And I'm Faith Casto.
So, how was your spring break, Faith?
It was pretty good. I spent most of it doing homework, though.
Oh, well, got to go to Charleston, South Carolina, eat a lot of good food. Got a lot of stares, though, on account of the giant squirrel thing.
Yeah, that might do it for you. I will say I went to the Amish country. I saw a lot of Amish people. I mean, that's to be expected, though, right?
I would presume. Well, you missed last week's episode, but it was a real banger. We got to watch Cadillacs and Dinosaurs, and we had two actual real-life lizard people in the studio.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah. Also, Time Machine has a name now. It is the TOON. That's Temporal Observation and Orbital Navigation Machine.
That's interesting. Well, at least you weren't the only animal, huh?
Yeah. Well, technically you're an animal, but...
well, yes.
You're not mineral or vegetable.
Certainly not.
Now, I got good news and bad news. The good news is that we now have an official sponsor.
That's great.
The bad news, it's a product you can't buy anymore. I negotiated the sponsorship deal in 1993, back when we were back in time, and with the benefit of hindsight, probably shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, maybe not. I mean, having a sponsorship from something that doesn't exist might not be the greatest thing for us.
Yeah, and it was really hard to sell them on sponsoring a podcast in 1993.
Yeah, but I mean, hey, if we ever go back there, at least we have the sponsorship.
But yeah, we are sponsored by the Bigfoot Pizza from Pizza Hut.
Recently, an object was sighted.
It was big. Bigger than big.
Huge, large, astronomically big.
Big would be an understatement.
Very big. Huge.
Some guy. Big, huge.
When it arrives, you better not be alone. Bigfoot.
Pizza Hut.
From Pizza Hut. 2 square feet of pizza. 21 slices on a tasty new crust. $10.99 for up to 3 toppings. It's bigger than pizza. Bigfoot from Pizza Hut. A legendary value.
Bigfoot pizza?
Yes. You see, Pizza Hut, Little Caesars, and Domino's basically had an arms race to create the biggest pizza in 1993. Little Caesars kicked it off with the Big Cheese, which was basically a double dose of their deep dish.
Oh.
And Pizza Hut responded by creating the 12-inch by 24-inch Bigfoot pizza.
That's a big pizza.
Yeah, it was just this giant square Sicilian pizza. And then Domino's released the 30-slice Dominator pizza. And the problem with that is that it was so large you couldn't fit it easily into a compact car, which is what most Domino's drivers drove.
Yeah, that would be a problem.
And the other thing is, at the time, Domino's had a 30-minute or less guarantee if you ordered delivery, and because this giant pizza took longer to make, they had to offer it as carry-out only. So it was a Domino's product you couldn't have delivered, which was their key selling point.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of people would have tried to take advantage of the whole delivery thing, though.
So we went back in time to 1993, and while I was out negotiating the sponsorship deal, I grabbed a newspaper, and here's some of the things that happened in the news back then. On October 15th, Fox aired the last episode of the Chevy Chase Show. Chase signed a $3 million deal to host the late-night talk show, and Fox spent $1 million to renovate the Aquarius Theater to host it. The show competed against Jay Leno, David Letterman, and Arsenio Hall, and was canceled after only 6 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a major league flop, and yeah, Chevy Chase, funny guy, but he just, for whatever reason, seemed to have no idea how to host a talk show. On November 7th, in boxing, Evander Holyfield defeated Riddick Bowe by decision to win the WBA and IBF heavyweight championships. But in the 7th round, a parachutist crashed into the ring, causing the fight to be delayed by 21 minutes.
Oh, wow.
So that's probably why we don't have more boxing matches outside.
Well, yeah, that might do it for you.
Yeah, the parachutist, I forget his name. They called him the Fan Man. He was sort of a minor celebrity for parachuting into places he was not supposed to parachute in. And if you watch the fight, Riddick Bowe looks absolutely furious. He's ready to floor this idiot. Elsewhere in combat sports, on November 12th, the first Ultimate Fighting Championship was held in Denver, Colorado. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu master Royce Gracie defeated kickboxer Gerald Gardot via choke in the finals of a one-night tournament. And despite being advertised as there are no rules, every fight started with the referee saying no biting, no elbows, and no eye pokes. So technically there were 3 rules.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was a really interesting thing because mixed martial arts, as we know it, didn't really exist. So this event was being advertised as trying to figure out which martial arts style was the best. And we very quickly found out which styles of martial arts actually had real-world practicality. So jiu-jitsu worked well, kickboxing worked well, Kempo, karate, and sumo, not so much.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Karate doesn't seem very practical, of course. Like,
Well,
I guess in the sense that, like, it might be good for self-defense, possibly.
It is, but the thing is, they don't train leg kicks. And Muay Thai is all about leg kicks. So if you're fighting a kickboxer, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
So we went back to 1993 and we watched Tales from the Crypt Keeper. And are you familiar with any incarnation of Tales from the Crypt, out of curiosity?
I was actually not before watching this.
So Tales from the Crypt, a.k.a. The Crypt of Terror, began as a comic book in 1950. It was published on a bi-monthly schedule and was published by EC Comics from 1950 to 1955, created by Bill Gaines and Al Feldstein. And EC Comics was a company that published many different genre books, including horror, crime, science fiction, humor, and romance stories. They basically did everything but superheroes. It ran for a total of 29 issues, and it was an anthology series, so their only reoccurring characters were the horror hosts, those being the Crypt Keeper, the Old Witch, and the Vault Keeper. It featured many top artists of the day, including Wally Wood, Harvey Kurtzman, and Al Feldstein, and it was so popular that it had 2 spin-off series, The Vault of Terror and The Haunt of Fear. In 1944, though, a quack named Dr. Frederick Wortham, the Jordan Peterson of his time, wrote a book called Seduction of the Innocent, blaming comic books for everything from juvenile delinquency to homosexuality. And concerned parents were whipped up into a frenzy, and the next thing you know, comic books were being burned in the street. This led to hearings over comic book violence before Congress and cities banning horror and crime comics. And in 1954, the Comic Magazine Association of America formed the Comic Code Authority, a governing body modeled after the Hays Code, as an alternative to government regulation. Horror and crime comics were effectively banned, leading to EC Comics going after business. And only one EC Comics publication survived, a humor magazine called Tales Calculated to Drive You Mag. Sorry, I meant to say Mad. And it was later retitled Mad Magazine.
That's pretty neat.
And can you guess what EC Comics stood for?
EC Comics Entertainment Center?
Entertainment Comics. So it was Entertainment Comics.
Oh.
Which, isn't that different from DC Comics, which is short for their flagship publication, Detective Comics?
Oh, I didn't actually know that.
Yeah. So it is actually Detective Comics. So in 1972, British company Amicus Films made an adaptation of Tales from the Crypt, and it was a story. It was an anthology in which the framing story was 5 strangers in a crypt encounter the mysterious crypt keeper, played by Ralph Richardson, who makes each person foresee the manner of their death. The stories were all adaptation of various EC Comics, and it had a 1973 sequel, The Vault of Horror, which also adapted EC Comics tales. EC Comics also inspired the 1982 horror film Creep Show, which was directed by George Romero of Night of the Living Dead and written by Stephen King. And it was basically a Tales from the Crypt movie in all but name, which brings us to the Tales from the Crypt TV show, which ran from 1989 to 1996. This was a big-budget television adaptation of EC Comics horror produced by some of the biggest names in Hollywood, including Richard Donner, David Giller, who was the producer of Aliens, Walter Hill of 48 Hours fame, Joe Silver, the producer of Lethal Weapon, and Roger Zemeckis, the director of Who Framed Roger Rabbit. It was produced for HBO and had a hard R rating for violence and nudity. The theme song was composed by Danny Elfman, most famous for doing the Batman theme from the Tim Burton films.
Oh, wow.
And 93 episodes were filmed over the course of 7 seasons. There were many celebrity guest stars. Even Arnold Schwarzenegger was in an episode. And for the final season, production was moved to the UK as a cost-cutting measure, which led to a noticeable decline of quality, leading to the show's cancellation. From 1994 through 1995, Fox aired episodes of the show in direct competition to Saturday Night Live, and when he was guest appearing on the show, George H.W. Bush actually joked about threatening to turn the channel to Tales from the Crypt. It also inspired 2 theatrical movies, Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight, which was a big hit, and Bordello of Blood, which was a flop. It also inspired a pinball machine, a Christmas album, and a 1996 children's game show called Secrets of the Crypt Keeper's Haunted House. And the Crypt Keeper was reimagined as a puppet voiced by John Kaiser, who is a very famous stand-up comedian. He also does a lot of voice work. He does, or did, the voice of Scrooge McDuck in The Wonderful World of Mickey Mouse shorts.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, very versatile.
Seems like a certainly popular thing.
Yeah, yeah. Now, from 1993 to 1995, we got the animated adaptation, Tales from the Crypt Keeper. It ran for 26 episodes over 2 seasons on ABC, and it was produced by Nelvana, most famous for educational shows like The Magic School Bus and Beetlejuice. And you weren't here last time, but they also did Cadillacs and Dinosaurs. And as mentioned before, John Kaiser reprised his role as the Crypt Keeper, who loves all things ghoulish and loves all puns. And during the show's 2nd season, they introduced some other EC comic horror characters. The Old Witch, who was voiced by Elizabeth Hanna, and the Vault Keeper, who was voiced by David Hemblin. And they would have these segments where they would get into arguments over who got to tell the story for each week's episode. Now, in 1999, CBS revived the series as New Tales for the Crypt Keeper, which ran for 13 episodes. And the show had a different art style and a lower budget, and it even more watered down the horror. So I watched a couple episodes of the quote-unquote New Tales from the Crypt Keeper. It was kind of rough. Interesting thing is the show featured the Crypt Keeper taking on a more hands-on role directly affecting the plot. So a typical episode would be like, oh, this kid is skipping his homework. I'll teach him a lesson.
Well,
the show featured an action figure line, but it was basically just 2 figures of the Crypt Keeper and a bunch of generic monsters, so there were really only 2 figures that were desirable.
right.
And Camille and Mildred from this episode would return in the 2nd season for a sequel episode called The Weeping Woman. So we watched Fair Tonight, which was Season 1, Episode 9 of Tales from the Crypt Keeper, written by David Finley. Our episode begins with a more whimsical remix of the iconic Danny Elfman Tales from the Crypt theme, and we fade in to see the Crypt Keeper dressed as Sherlock Holmes. Tonight's terror tale is a whodunit you can try and solve right at Holmes. He proceeds to make a bunch of werewolf jokes, which is a little odd considering the subject of the episode. We fade in at a movie theater where our protagonists, Camille and Mildred, are watching a black and white vampire movie. They are screaming and have jumped into each other's arms. Some punk-looking guy tells them to go to the romance movie next door. So he is either gatekeeping horror or he suspects what I suspect about these two, that they were on a date.
Oh.
They scare him away with vampire fangs, and after the movie, Camille takes off her fangs, and Mildred finds out that they are stuck in her braces. Camille wonders if any real vampires go to see all these films, and she believes that she has proof of a real vampire and invites Mildred to a place called the All Night Bite.
Although I will say, I noticed later in the episode, I don't know if it was like a art error or like animation error or something, but I noticed that she does have the fangs off once she reaches like the cafe.
Oh, well.
Or the diner.
Yeah. Well, we get an establishing shot of the Twin Towers in New York City, which is a little awkward. Mildred still has the vampire fangs stuck, and she laments, great, my parents spend a fortune on braces to correct a minor overbite, and I come home with fangs. And she bumps into an old lady who mistakes her for a vampire, and there's a bit of comedy. We fade in at the All Night Bite, which is a 24-hour coffee and donut place, and we see that the Crypt Keeper is one of the customers. Mildred has a run-in with a creepy-looking guy before Camille drags her away, and Camille produces a newspaper with an article on strange sightings of a man with wings in the area. Mildred is skeptical, and there is another false scare that turns out to be Eugene, a limo driver who is on friendly terms with our heroes. Eugene pats Mildred on the back, which finally knocks her vampire fangs loose. And Camille asks Mildred to meet her at her place after school. We then see a shadowy figure in a purple coat glaring at our heroes. We cut to see Camille's home in the suburbs, and Mildred is scared by Camille's toddler sister, who is now wearing the vampire fangs. We cut to Camille's room, which is full of vampire stock. I do wonder, which side do you think Camille was on the Edward Jacob debate?
Honestly, probably Edward.
I don't know, because on one hand, she seems to be really into vampires, but she seems to be really into staking vampires.
Yeah, and throwing garlic at them.
Yeah. So Camille has a book on vampire hunting and has built a vampire detector in shop class. Mildred has made wooden stakes as a Christmas gift. I wonder who they're for. And the next night, the girls are out staking out looking for the vampire, and Mildred is unhappy because she has to wear the garlic. She laments, great, I smell like a meatball. The vampire detector starts beeping, and we see the creepy guy get into Eugene's limo. The girls panic and start chasing after the limo on their bikes, and we cut inside of the limo where Eugene is trying to crack some jokes, and the guy is just staring ominously at him. Camille ends up dropping some wooden stakes, which pop the tires on Mildred's bike, and the girls end up chasing the limo on one bicycle. And this is the one thing that got me about this episode. This seems like the scene that would probably get the most protest from the networks. Like, okay, we were fine with vampire hunting, but, two people riding on one bike, that's dangerous.
I mean, they definitely had a scene straight out of E.T., I will say that.
Yeah. So while they're chasing him on the bike, the drawbridge goes out and the girls make a big jump, and it is a homage to E.T. Girls then yell, cinematic! Girls then see Eugene's limo parked on Stoker Street, and they rush in to save him, only to find that the limo is empty. They go inside a dark warehouse and realize they forgot to bring a flashlight, and they see the shadowy figure and pursue him. Mildred laments, if this backfires, chances are we will be the only vampires in the 11th grade, so not a lot of goth kids at their school.
All right.
Yeah. They almost fall into a hole in a stairway, and they find an old office with a coffin in it, and Mildred says, he sleeps in the office, he must be very dedicated to his work. The two see the creepy guy, but start arguing over who should stake him, and Eugene arrives and starts scuffling with the creepy guy, only for it to turn out that Eugene was the vampire all along.
Dun, dun, dun.
He knocks out the creepy guy and goes after the girls. Mildred throws some garlic in his mouth, and the girls run away. Eugene actually rips the stairway from its foundations and throws them at the girls, and the girls manage to duck through a hole in the stairway that Mildred had almost fallen through earlier. And they exclaim Buster Keaton in a joke that I'm sure none of the show's audience actually got, but I appreciated it. And Eugene then turns into a bat and chases our heroes. The girls jump inside of Eugene's limo and intend to drive away, but Mildred's learner's permit has expired, so she refuses to drive. Camille attempts to drive, but accidentally backs into a telephone pole and somehow gets knocked into the back seat of the limo. Eugene scares the girls, and Mildred fiddles around with the limo's controls, trying to lock the doors. And Eugene turns into mist and gets inside the limo. Camille is trapped in the back seat with the vampire, but the sun comes out, and Mildred opens the sunroof just in time to fry Eugene, and he dies horribly. We see the creepy-looking guy, and it turns out he's the vampire hunter who wrote Camille's book. He tells the girls that vampire hunting is very dangerous business, and our episodes ends with the three heroes walking out into the sunset. We then cut to the Crypt Keeper, and he's embarrassed because this isn't a werewolf story. He was barking up the wrong tree, and he points out that Mildred and Camille almost learned the hard way. Things are not often what they scream.
Love the pun.
Oh, yeah. So what were your final thoughts on Tales from the Crypt Keeper?
I will say it was a very interesting episode. I really liked the style of it, and it was something that I honestly would watch on a regular basis, I think. Overall, it had some good puns, and I liked how the main character seemed to have like a fourth wall breaking ability somehow, in a way.
Yeah, I watched some more episodes. There are some good ones. It's a bit uneven being an anthology series.
Yeah.
But I really liked the characters of Mildred and Camille. I kind of wish they got a spin-off series. I feel like that if the show had come out today, there'd probably be a bunch of wholesome fan art on Tumblr of the two, like holding hands and stuff.
Possibly.
And this was a lot of fun. And, in the 90s, it seemed like I call it Training Wheels horror or Baby's First horror was having a moment with the Goosebumps books and the Are You Afraid of the Dark TV show. And this fit right in with that.
It definitely did. I think it was a really cute little thing.
All right. So we're going to play a bonus game. I'm going to have to find some game show music. And I call this game Crypt, Dark, or Creep. I'm going to give you a title, and using nothing but that title, guess whether it's an episode of Tales from the Crypt, Tales from the Dark Side, or Creep Show.
Oh, okay.
So to give you a little more context, Tales from the Crypt ran from 1989 to 1996, Tales from the Dark Side ran from 1983 to 1988, and Creep Show ran on Shudder from 2019 to 2023.
Okay.
So our first title, Dead and Breakfast.
Dead and Breakfast. And what were my options? Crypt, Dark, or Creep?
Correct.
Dark.
A marketing ploy at a bed and breakfast becomes too realistic in this episode of Creep Show.
Oh.
So it was Creep. All right. Abra Cadaver.
I want to say Crypt.
Correct. A former potential surgeon seeks revenge on his brother for a cruel prank in this episode of Tales from the Crypt. All right, so you got 1 point on the board.
Woo!
Next, Jinn, No Chaser.
Dark.
Correct. Basketball legend Kareem Abdul-Jabbar plays an evil genie in this episode of Tales from the Dark Side. So you got 2 points for your final question here. Death of some salesman.
Creep.
A con man posing as a salesman gets more than he bargained for from a rural family. Tim Curry guest starred in this episode of Tales from the Crypt.
Oh, okay. See, I was thinking it might be Tales from the Crypt, or that's the title, right?
Yes.
Okay. But I was like, okay, well, this might be Creep. You never know.
You never know. Well, that was fun. Any final thoughts for our audience today?
I don't think so. Overall, I thought that the show was a pretty great one. I would definitely watch it again. But other than that, I don't think I have anything to say.
All right. Well, Toonsters, we're going to be going back to 1991 for our semester finale. We're going to take a look at some Disney afternoon goodness with Darkwing Duck. We may even have a special guest studio for this one.
Ooh. Will it be another little animal guest?
It won't be a mineral or vegetable guest.
Well, maybe in the next time.
All right. Goodbye.
Bye.